Time has always been seen as something we are racing against, a force that slips through our fingers no matter how tightly we try to hold on. We complain that there aren't enough hours in the day, as if time itself is unfair, as if it is plotting against us. But time isn't an enemy. It does not speed up or slow down for anyone. The truth is, time simply reflects the choices we make, the way we set our priorities, and what we decide matters most in our lives. If you look closely, your calendar tells the story of what you value. Every hour is a vote for something. When you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to something else. And the pattern of those yeses and nos becomes the shape of your life. It is not time that chooses for you. You choose, and time shows you the outcome of those choices. Think about the moments when you said, "I don't have time." That sentence is rarely about the absence of time. It's about the absence of priority. You had time, it was just allocated somewhere else. That's why two people with the same 24 hours can live completely different lives. One may create, build, and grow, while the other feels constantly stuck. The difference is not in the hours they had, but in how they prioritize them. We often trick ourselves into believing we are victims of time. If only I had more hours, then I could. But extra hours don't solve the problem of misplaced focus. What solves it is clarity about what is worth your energy and what is not. Once that clarity is present, even limited time feels abundant because it's being directed toward what actually matters. Notice how time feels when you're deeply engaged in something meaningful. Hours pass and you don't even see them go by. That's not time being kind, that's you living in alignment with your priorities. On the other hand, notice how slow and heavy time feels when you're trapped in tasks that don't matter. That contrast is proof that time doesn't create fulfillment. Priorities do. If you want to understand someone, don't ask them what they care about. Look at how they spend their time. Time is the most honest measure of values, far more than words or intentions. We may say family matters, but if family never finds a place in our schedule, what does that reveal? We may say health matters, but if it's always the first thing sacrificed, when the day gets busy, what is the truth? The mirror that time holds up is not always comfortable. Sometimes it shows us contradictions we don't want to admit. But that mirror is also an invitation. It gives us the chance to realign, to re-choose, to make tomorrow look different than today. Time does not judge, but it never lies. And perhaps the greatest freedom we can experience is recognizing that the reflection can be changed. Our priorities are not fixed. They are chosen and re-chosen every single day. What you see in the mirror of time today doesn't have to be what you see tomorrow. We often talk about time management, as if time were a resource we could bend, stretch, or store away for later. But time is untouchable. It moves forward with or without our permission. You cannot slow down an hour, you cannot negotiate with a day, and you cannot bargain for an extra week. The hours keep arriving at the same speed for everyone. The illusion is that we are managing time, when in truth, the only thing we are ever managing is ourselves. Think about it. Each morning, 24 hours are handed to you like a blank canvas. That canvas is not bigger or smaller than anyone else's. The question is not whether you have enough time, but whether you are disciplined enough to decide how you will paint on it. Some fill it with chaos, distractions, and endless scrolling. Others fill it with focused progress and meaningful actions. The canvas is the same, the artist is different. When people say they don't have time, what they often mean is they haven't managed themselves in relation to the time they already have. Self-management is about knowing when to say yes, when to say no, and when to pause. It's about recognizing the difference between urgency and importance. Without that discipline, time feels like it controls you. With it, you realize you always had control. You just weren't exercising it. Consider someone training for a marathon while working a full-time job. At first glance, it seems impossible. But what they understand is that they cannot manufacture more hours. Instead, they shift themselves within the hours available, waking up earlier, cutting unnecessary distractions, preparing meals in advance. They don't manage time, they manage their energy, their focus, and their habits inside of time. The mistake most people make is trying to control the uncontrollable. They complain about days being too short, about weeks disappearing too fast, about years flying by. But the problem isn't speed, the problem is direction. You can't stop the clock, but you can choose where to point your attention while the clock ticks. That shift in mindset changes everything, from frustration to ownership, from scarcity to intentionality. Self-management also means understanding your limits. There is a rhythm to life. Periods of intense effort must be balanced with periods of rest. If you ignore this, you may manage to stay busy, but you won't manage to stay effective. Within time, your energy is the real currency. Spend it carelessly and you run out. Spend it wisely and you multiply its impact. What makes this truth both empowering and challenging is that it leaves no room for excuses. If you can't manage time, only yourself, then every result in your life is a reflection of your choices, not the ticking of a clock. That is a heavy responsibility, but it is also liberating. It means you don't need more hours to change your life. You need more discipline, clarity, and intention within the hours you already have. And once you accept that time as a constant, you stop waiting for life to slow down and start learning how to rise above the pace. You stop blaming time for slipping away and start owning the way you show up inside of it. Most people struggle with time not because they lack hours, but because they lack clarity. They fill their schedules with tasks, meetings, and endless lists, yet at the end of the day, they feel empty. The problem isn't the workload. It's the absence of a clear reason behind the work. When you don't know why you're doing something, every decision feels heavy. Every choice feels like a gamble. Clarity of purpose is like a compass. Without it, you wander in circles, chasing opportunities that don't matter and reacting to distractions that look urgent but lead nowhere. With it, every what becomes obvious, and every when becomes easier to decide. The compass doesn't give you more hours, but it prevents you from wasting the hours you already have. Think of someone building a house without a blueprint. They could work hard, they could carry bricks, they could spend the whole day hammering nails, but without the clarity of the design, their effort risks creating chaos instead of structure. In the same way, clarity of why provides the blueprint for how to invest your time. It gives meaning to the bricks and nails of everyday life. When your why is clear, you stop asking small questions like, should I do this now or later? And instead start asking bigger questions like, does this even matter at all? That shift eliminates countless wasted hours. You realize that many of the things demanding your attention don't deserve it. They are noise, not music. And once you can separate the two, time becomes a tool, not a trap. Notice how people who know their purpose rarely look busy in the frantic way others do. They may have full schedules, but their choices feel deliberate. They don't chase everything. They choose carefully. They don't say yes out of guilt. They say yes out of conviction. Their clarity acts as a filter, simplifying what to prioritize and when to act. On the other hand, people without clarity often mistake movement for progress. They rush from task to task, filling their calendars with commitments that exhaust them, but don't fulfill them. It's not because they are lazy. It's because they haven't decided why their efforts matter in the first place. Without a guiding purpose, time becomes scattered energy, and scattered energy always leads to burnout. Clarity also removes hesitation. Think about how much time is lost in indecision, in overthinking, in second-guessing yourself. When you know your why, hesitation shrinks, decisions move faster, action becomes natural. Instead of spending hours debating, you spend hours doing, and the results compound. Time rewards the clear-minded. The beauty of clarity is that it doesn't make life easier, but it makes it simpler. You will still face challenges, you will still have to sacrifice, but the path is illuminated. You know why you're walking it. And once that is in place, the what and the when fall into order almost effortlessly. There is a strange pride people take in saying, I'm busy. It has become a badge of honor, a way of signaling importance. But being busy is not the same as being productive. Business is about movement, productivity is about progress. You can run on a treadmill all day and end up in the same place, sweating and exhausted, while someone else takes fewer steps but moves closer to a destination. Business feels good because it gives the illusion of accomplishment. Checking off small, unimportant tasks provides quick satisfaction, like snacking on junk food. But that satisfaction fades quickly because deep down, you know the work didn't matter. Productivity, on the other hand, may feel slower, harder, and less glamorous, but it creates results that last. It is the difference between filling time and fulfilling purpose. Think about how easy it is to fill a day with email, meetings, and errands. You stay active from morning to night, but when the day is over, you struggle to point to something meaningful you actually achieved. That's the trap of business. It consumes time without creating value. Productivity, however, is measured not by how much you did, but by how much impact you created with what you did. Business often comes from avoidance. We use activity to hide from the uncomfortable work of focus. It is easier to reply to 20 messages than to sit in silence and solve one big problem. It is easier to attend 3 meetings than to have one difficult conversation. In this way, business protects us from discomfort while stealing the very progress that discomfort would have brought. Productivity requires courage. It demands asking, what truly matters today? And then having the discipline to direct your attention there. Even if it is harder, slower, or less immediately gratifying, it may mean leaving some tasks undone, some boxes unchecked, some emails unanswered. But that sacrifice is the price of results. You cannot do everything, but you can do the right things. Notice how the most effective people rarely seem frantic. Their days are not cluttered, their energy is not scattered, and yet their impact is undeniable. That is because they don't confuse activity with achievement. They understand that more is not better. Better is better. They protect their focus, guard their attention, and aim their efforts like an arrow, not like a shotgun. In contrast, the busiest people often feel the least accomplished. Their schedules overflow, their to-do lists never end, and their minds never rest. But despite all the activity, they rarely feel fulfilled. That's because business drains while productivity sustains. Business feeds ego, productivity feeds purpose. One leaves you tired, the other leaves you transformed. The danger is that business is addictive. It feels easier than focus, safer than prioritizing, and more acceptable than saying no. But the cost is high. A life filled with business is a life scattered thin. A life filled with productivity is a life that compounds meaning over time. We spend so much effort trying to manage time that we often forget time alone means nothing without the energy to use it. An hour at your best is not equal to an hour at your worst. Two people may both have the same block of free time, but the one with energy, focus, and clarity will accomplish far more than the one who is drained. Time is constant, but energy is variable, and that makes energy just as important to manage as time itself. Think about the moments when you were exhausted. Even with hours stretching ahead of you, you struggled to get anything meaningful done. Now compare that with the moments when you were energized, when your mind was sharp and your motivation was high. In that state, a single hour of work felt like 3. The difference wasn't the clock. It was your state of energy within the clock. Energy management begins with awareness. Too often we push through fatigue as if we are machines, pretending that willpower alone can compensate. But humans are not machines, we are biological beings with rhythms, peaks, and valleys of performance. Ignoring this truth leads to burnout. Respecting it creates sustainable productivity. This is why rest is not a luxury, but a strategy. Sleep, breaks, exercise, nutrition. These are not indulgences that take time away from work. They are investments that give power back to your time. A well-rested hour is infinitely more valuable than a tired hour. A nourished mind produces sharper ideas than a depleted one. Energy multiplies the value of time. Managing energy also means protecting it from unnecessary drains. Every distraction, every unimportant task, every toxic interaction pulls energy from you even if it doesn't take much time. This is why saying no is not just about guarding your schedule, it is about guarding your energy. When you preserve energy for the things that matter, your time naturally becomes more effective. High performers understand that their day is not just about scheduling hours, but about aligning tasks with energy peaks. They tackle their hardest work when they have the most focus and save lighter tasks for when energy dips. They don't fight their rhythm, they design around it. This alignment allows them to accomplish more with less strain, turning time into an ally rather than a burden. The paradox is that many people waste time trying to squeeze more hours into the day while neglecting the energy that fuels those hours. They sacrifice sleep to gain more time, but the tired hours they create give back little. They skip exercise to save time, only to weaken the very energy that makes time useful. In chasing hours, they lose effectiveness. Energy management is not about doing less, it's about being more present, more capable, more alive in the hours you already have. When time and energy meet with intention, productivity stops being a struggle and starts being a natural outcome. When people think about managing time, they often imagine grand strategies, massive overhauls, or revolutionary changes to their routines. But the truth is far less dramatic and far more powerful. It is not the big, one-time actions that shape how we use time. It is the small, consistent habits practiced daily that create the greatest dividends. A single habit may seem insignificant in the moment. Waking up 20 minutes earlier doesn't feel like much. Reading 5 pages of a book doesn't seem like progress. Writing 1 paragraph feels too small to matter. But when repeated over weeks, months, and years, these tiny actions compound, creating outcomes that look impossible to those who only relied on bursts of effort. Time rewards consistency. Just as a bank account grows with steady deposits, your life grows with steady habits. The person who invests a little time each day in their health will be stronger than the one who spends hours at the gym once a month. The person who writes daily will complete books, while the one waiting for inspiration will still be staring at blank pages. It is not intensity that compounds, it is consistency. Small habits also reduce the friction of decision making. Every time you repeat an action, it becomes automatic, requiring less mental effort. Instead of negotiating with yourself every morning about whether to exercise, you simply do it because it has become part of your identity. This frees up mental energy for bigger choices while ensuring progress continues quietly in the background. Consider how much time is lost when we wait for the right moment. We think we need perfect conditions, long blocks of uninterrupted time, or a burst of motivation to begin. But the reality is progress rarely comes in dramatic moments. It comes in steady increments built from small habits that require little but add up to much. By the time others are waiting for the stars to align, those with consistent habits are already far ahead. The beauty of small habits is that they scale. Once a foundation is in place, it becomes easier to build more. 5 minutes of meditation turns into 10, a short walk into a daily run, a single journal entry into a lifelong practice. Time compounds the effort, and what once felt insignificant becomes transformational. What makes habits so powerful is not their size but their permanence. A big effort might create a temporary result, but a habit creates a permanent shift. You don't just complete a task, you become the kind of person who does it. And once your identity changes, time works in your favor, multiplying every small choice into a larger outcome. The truth is, time dividends are not earned through dramatic leaps, but through quiet consistency. Habits are the invisible architecture of a meaningful life, shaping your days, your years, and ultimately the story time will tell about you. Focus is the currency of achievement. Without it, even the most generous supply of time and energy is scattered into fragments that never add up to anything meaningful. The problem is not that focus is weak. It is that we allow too many forces to steal it. That is why boundaries are essential. They are not walls to keep life out. They are guardrails to protect what matters most inside. Every time you let an unnecessary meeting onto your calendar, every time you check a notification that didn't deserve your attention, every time you say yes to something you didn't truly want to do, you are not just losing time, you are losing focus. And once focus is gone, even the simplest task takes twice as long. Boundaries are the defense mechanism against the silent drain. Think of focus like a spotlight. When it is directed at one thing, it illuminates clearly and powerfully. But without boundaries, the light scatters across too many directions, leaving everything dim. The role of boundaries is to keep the light narrow so it can burn brighter. Without them, your focus diffuses until it is barely noticeable. Setting boundaries is not about being selfish, it is about being intentional. When you say no to distractions, you are saying yes to deeper work. When you limit interruptions, you are choosing quality over quantity. When you create space to think, you are building conditions for clarity. Boundaries are not barriers, they are choices about where to invest your best attention. The challenge is that boundaries are uncomfortable. Saying no feels risky. Protecting your focus often means disappointing others, resisting social pressure, or breaking habits of constant availability. But the alternative is worse. A life without boundaries is a life where your focus belongs to everyone but you, where your most valuable resource is traded away piece by piece until nothing remains for what you truly care about. Notice how the most effective people are not always the busiest. They are the most guarded. They protect their mornings, they structure their environments, they turn off distractions, and they are ruthless about where their focus goes. From the outside, it may look rigid, but from the inside, it is freedom. Boundaries create the space that focus requires to thrive. Boundaries also extend beyond the external world. They exist in the mind. Allowing negative thoughts, constant worry, or endless comparison to run unchecked consumes just as much focus as an external distraction. Guarding your inner world with as much discipline as your outer environment is what makes true concentration possible. In the end, focus cannot survive without protection, and protection cannot exist without boundaries. If you don't draw the line, someone else will draw it for you, and their priorities will always overshadow your own. Modern life glorifies the idea of doing it all. We admire the person with the packed calendar, the endless to-do list, the constant hustle. But the truth is, doing everything is not only impossible, it is unnecessary. A meaningful life has never been defined by the quantity of things we do, but by the quality of the few things that truly matter. When you try to do everything, you dilute yourself. Your energy is stretched thin, your focus is scattered, and your time disappears into tasks that add little value. You may look busy, but business does not equal fulfillment. It is possible to accomplish much and feel empty, just as it is possible to accomplish less, but feel deeply satisfied. The difference is in what you choose to prioritize. A meaningful life is built on intentional trade-offs. You cannot say yes to everything, so the power lies in deciding what deserves your yes. That decision is not about efficiency. It is about meaning. It's about recognizing the few relationships, projects, and commitments that align with your values and letting the rest fall away without guilt. Think about the people you admire most. It is rarely because they did everything. It is because they did something that mattered, something that lasted, something that impacted others. Their lives are proof that focus, not volume, creates legacy. They remind us that trying to do it all often means ending up with very little worth remembering. Choosing what matters most requires courage. It often means saying no to opportunities that look good, but don't align with your deeper purpose. It means resisting the pull of comparison when others seem to be doing more. It means accepting that you cannot please everyone and instead deciding who and what is worth pleasing. Meaning is always the result of conscious choices, not accidental accumulation. There is also freedom in this approach. When you release the pressure to do everything, you create space to do the right things well. You no longer measure your worth by how full your schedule